welcome to the world's greatest Bronze Age Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike Allen. As always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from August of 1987.
Woo, that's right. And we're winding down to the end of the big Hobgoblin Rose saga.
Right.
And joining us this week, as usual, G.I. Jolie.
Hello. Hooray.
G.I. Jolie actually thought she'd already read one of these comics. We'll get to why later, because I think we all had deja vu when we were reading one of these.
Deja vu? It's practically the same book.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also joining us this week, Bex Luthor.
Hey, it's me. What up?
Hi.
Joining us, Bex.
Hey, it's me. I just proposed to my not girlfriend after finding out that my friend is dead. So, you know, just casual things.
As one
Did you have
does.
to murder your friend first so that you could really reenact it?
Turns out that the friend who was murdered, actually, it wasn't him. Like, you find out 10 years later that it was actually somebody else, so we're fine.
The parallels are amazing. Anyway, so to celebrate, we have a very special guest. For those that don't know, January is Jankuary. On Here Comes the Spider-Cast, Kevin Jank is joining us again. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no problem. I feel like I need a cool comic booky name like you guys have, though.
That's
Maybe like Jank McCoy?
Ooh, that's good.
Oh.
I don't want to go Jank Pym. Like, there's a lot of bad connotations.
Yeah.
Oh. What about Captain Jankway? Wait, that sounds kind of...
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds like a
You
store.
came out swinging with the Jank McCoy. That's great.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I think
that's
that was
good.
like
Yeah.
gold, man. You struck gold with your first try. That's great. Anyway,
I'll take the rest of the show off.
yeah. So I know that we probably talked about this. This is your second appearance, right?
Yep, that is correct.
We probably talked about this in your last appearance, but you are a Spidey fan, right?
Yep. Started back with the 90s cartoon show. And
Right.
very quickly then started reading the comics right smack dab in the middle of the Clone Saga.
Perfect
And
time.
for some reason kept at it.
Yeah. And
Yep.
have you read these comics before you review them for this episode?
I did read this issue of Amazing before. I had not read any of the others.
Okay. Well, it turns out that if you've read Amazing Spider-Man 289, you've also read Web of Spider-Man 29. And Josh, you're going to tell us what this one's about, and you're also going to maybe touch on some of the parallels.
The parallels? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So Web of number 29, we have this amazing cover with Spidey and Wolverine teaming up against what looks like Michael J. Fox up there on the roof. We have Nosferatu up front, and in the background we have literally Frankenstein.
Yeah.
And
then Dracula on the left. That's kind of weird.
Yeah. So
Well,
that doesn't happen in the comic. Anyways, we jump back to 2 months ago with the funeral of Ned Leeds.
Right.
And a lot of what we're getting right now is like a complete retelling. Like they're it's not like they're using the same panels. It's like completely new pages and panels of the story we just read about 2 months ago for us, 2 weeks ago, or maybe a little bit more because we did some things in between. But so we start off with the funeral, and again, Betty's not taking it well. Pete says he's going to go home with Betty because she's kind of like delusional right now and like not really taking it well. So, yeah. And then we also see that the Rose, Wilson Fisk's son, standing there. I do not believe we saw him in The Amazing Spider-Man 289 where this all unfolded. I think this is kind of like a bit of a retcon.
Yeah.
But
I believe you're right.
He's there. So after everybody leaves, he goes over and, of course, he puts a rose on the casket for his former friend. And if you ask Becca, former lover.
They were boyfriend.
Hey, I'm not disagreeing with you.
If anything, this cements.
This
Yeah.
issue really did.
Yeah. And we also see Joy Mercado and who is this again? Oh, Lance Bannon, trying to like stop and interview him because he's the son of a famous, criminal in New York, and he's like, "F you, I'm out of here." He hops in his Ferrari and tells Alfredo to start driving. So it's him, Alfredo, and I believe her name is Linda.
Gina.
Or Dina. Thank you. Dina?
Yeah,
You're right.
It's not important.
Yeah,
How can you forget Dina?
Yeah.
Classic Spider-Man character Dina.
Yeah, you're right. Forgive me.
I only remember because I keep reading it.
Ridiculous.
I only remember because I keep reading it as Dino, and I'm like, no.
Yeah. So
Dino from the Flintstones.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they yabba dabba do out of here. As Richard Fisk. I'm sorry.
Are you okay, Becca?
Stop!
So Richard Fisk jumps into a flashback so we can understand that Ned Leeds was Hobgoblin and blah, 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 things we've known and have talked about for so long now. So we cut over to Peter, and again, the same thing happens from before where he calls MJ to go over to take care of Betty because crazy women, am I right? And then Peter decides that he needs to talk to somebody about everything that's going on right now because he's deciding not to be Spider-Man anymore. So he's like, Daredevil's been kind of a dick lately, so forget him. Black Cat, yeah, I guess she's the only other person that knows because MJ's busy with Betty, so I'll go talk to her, I guess. So he goes over there. She's not home. So he goes out and sits by some docks. Meanwhile, we see who are these goons again?
Chris Keating and
Right,
Robert Kingsley.
Yeah, so Kingsley and the police chief are like talking and they're arguing, and then a couple of the Rose's goons walk in and they're trying to like take care of these guys so nothing is tied back to him with the whole Hobgoblin thing going on. Keaton shoots at them and it looks like Keaton gets knocked out. Anyways, the Rose guys leave and nothing really happens. It's not super important. So we cut over back to Richard Fisk and Dina, and then Fredo walks in and he's like, "Hey, what's up?" He's cool now, I guess. He's got these like really sick shades because he had like no distinctive like characteristics before. I don't even think he had orange hair before. Like he has like bright orange hair and these like green cool glasses and an Uzi
And a ponytail?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, listen, I understand you're worried because you think that your name is going to be tied in with what's going on with the Hobgoblin. So I'm going to go over there to a secret hideout and I'm going to investigate to make sure that there's no paperwork. And Dia's like, whoa, that guy's cool. And Richard Fisk is like, yeah, that guy fucks. He's cool, dude. So then we see somebody spying on Peter as he's like sat on the docks. We see the same scene again with Richard Fisk going back to his apartment. All of his friends are dead there, and Hobgoblin shows up. He throws a grenade, whatever. Who cares? Again, we've seen all this before. We cut back to Alfredo, who walked into the secret Hobgoblin lair. He's looking at like the Hobgoblin mobile and like going through papers and stuff. And he's like blowing up all of the like computer systems and taking tapes, whatever. He's doing some investigative work. It turns out that the guy in the shadow is actually Wolverine. So he kind of like is like giving Peter a pep talk of like, listen, we got to go fight these guys. Who are these guys again?
He just tries to steal Wolverine's wallet. They're just muggers.
Yeah, they're just
Yeah, right. Okay, so they aren't tied in. Sorry, I read these last week, so it's not fresh in my mind at all. I should have thumb through them real quick.
Peter and Wolverine are just sitting on the dock, and then all of a sudden, one of the muggers is like, "Hey, give me your wallet."
Oh, right. He's like, I
And it's
got some knives for you, and he pulls out his blades. Yeah, so
Give me your wallet to Wolverine.
so they team up, they fight these goons and scare them off, and then it turns out Hobgoblin shows up back at his headquarters, which is not Ned Leeds, but the new Hobgoblin that shows up. So he's there, kind of blowing shit up there, and Alfredo like barely makes it out. He gets into his like cool red car and drives away. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, like Hobgoblin is like blasting at his tires and stuff, and he lands in the river. And Richard Fisk he calls him on his car phone. He calls Richard Fisk on his car phone right before he dives into the river. And Richard Fisk thinks he's dead, so we end the comic with him running through the streets, racing to the docks to kind of conclude this like big fight that's been going on, and finally, hopefully, clear his name and not die. But he's probably gonna die in the next issue. I mean, it was a fine issue. It was just really
Already read it.
Yeah, it was just kind of a bummer that we already read most of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because I thought a lot of it worked. I thought Wolverine showing up was kind of nice to tie in. Like it feels like there's a reason for him to be there because he was there with the death of Ned Leeds. So he's like checking in on Peter, and this cool new Alfredo is just so awesome. Going back to the Hobgoblin there is cool, and seeing how this new Hobgoblin is dealing with things in more detail. Yeah, I mean, it was a fine comic. It was just, a bummer that we've kind of already dealt with all of this stuff again.
Are you kidding me? The Arranger wasn't even in that first one. The Arranger. Is this the first time we've seen him?
No.
No, he's Kingpin's guy. Well,
Yeah.
he's the Roses guy. Whose guy is Arranger's Kingpin's guy, right?
Yeah,
But he's like,
Yeah.
and he's friends with Richard Fisk.
Look at all of Kingpin's guys have to have like fancy names. Like, that's the garbage man. He comes and picks up my garbage once a week. Like, all right.
Yeah, me too. It's Garbage Man hyphenated.
Yeah, it's all caps.
The thing is, I don't know. I guess you could argue that some of the scenes in this comic are better than the same scenes in Amazing Spider-Man 289. But the question is, what's the point? Like, Amazing 289 was a double-sized issue, so I don't understand why they needed to.
Funeral.
What's that?
Yeah.
Like, they could, even if they were going to do it this way, they could have given us more, like, show it from a completely different point of view. At least it would have been more interesting, right? But there's just so many scenes that are just the same thing, but not as good, or slightly better, but not different enough.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that they had to tie it back to that exact moment. Like, why couldn't this been like a week later?
Right.
Like a week or two later, and he's checking in on Betty, and MJ is there, so he's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna let you guys talk. I'll go find somebody else. And like, they could have just not done this. Like, the Rose could have been like, okay, now that some time's passed, I've put some thought into it. I need to get rid of anything that ties me to Hobgoblin. So, or even like cut to now where it's like, okay, I've gone and already dealt with everything. The last thing I need to do is go to the Hobgoblin's headquarters. But I need to figure out a way to do this because he's already visited me and blew up half my apartment. So I've got to figure out a way to get this information from the dude. It doesn't make sense that they're doing this again. It's I don't know. The story is fine in this one, but again, it's double. I do like the art in 289 more as well.
Okay.
So like, even when they do redo it, I don't think it's as good, especially when you're talking about Hobgoblin showing up to the Rose's apartment. Like,
I thought that too.
It was terrifying in Amazing 2 weeks ago. Like, the art is like fantastic. The Hobgoblin looks completely unhinged, and this one, like he does look kind of creepy, but it doesn't have that same effect. I don't think compared to like the last time we saw it.
I agree. So Gia Jolie, you can go next because you actually thought you'd already read this comic, right?
Yep, and it turns out I was right.
Pretty much, yeah.
You know that feeling that you get when there's like in movies and television where they show one scene and then they show it again and they go back in time and they show it again from the point of view of another character.
Sure,
That is exactly what this comic felt like to me, except for there were additional people.
And it wasn't really from a different point of view.
Yeah,
It was all the exact same. It was just like different angles.
Right.
Yeah.
And where I caught myself was when the Rose had gone home and he was discovering like the dead body of his like henchmen, the dead bodies of his henchmen. I was like, wait. There is absolutely no way. I was like, did I read this? Because we've done this before where we've read the same comic. Oops. By accident. Or we've been given the same cue to read a comic and it's the same one from the week before. But this one I was like, okay, but this is different. I know that he's found Johnston dead in his chair before, but I could have sworn it looked different. And I was like, did I deja vu / dream read this comic? But yeah, I liked it. I like the art a lot. I like the art, like Josh, I like the art more in the other version. But this art was like pretty okay. Is it like did they write this as like a tongue-in-cheek sort of jab at am I saying it wrong, Jim Owsley?
Jim Owsley?
Jim Owsley, yeah.
Well, he wrote it. He wrote this one.
Oh, maybe this is a stab at the other people. I don't know, because like the whole gang is wearing red spots.
Yeah, yeah, that's really weird.
Let's be clear. We're like the people who wrote these comics. We've established they're younger than Josh. Right? like
Right.
Josh, you're older than everyone working on this comic right now. Like these people, like
That's pretty crazy.
I don't know. It just
Wow.
seems so haphazard. The whole thing. I don't know. Like I think they were just trying to get these out the door. That's my feeling.
It's especially really weird that they're still doing comics from the like this like sorry, they're still doing Spidey stories from this era when he's with Black Cat, but then
Right.
the next issue we're going to be talking about, he's like trying to marry MJ. So it's
Right.
super weird that she's still living in his apartment.
Right.
Like,
right.
why would they even want to bring that up? Why
Mhm.
are they bringing that up right now? It just feels really strange. Yeah, again, I think it's a fine comic by itself. It just feels like a weird time to read it. When
Yeah.
all of this is just kind of already behind us.
Right. It's like if it would have come out 2 months ago, it would have made some kind of sense. But at this
Yeah.
point, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, Bex Luthor, what do you think?
Just do a villain, guys. Like,
Right. Have a lizard story or a Dr. Octopus story, right?
it's at this point, Web of is half villains anyway, so what's one more? And they're just like, what if we just did Amazing, though? Like, this villain is just the old Amazing story again. It was fine. I mean, when I got to the point where the Rose walks in on his like goons being killed again, I was like, didn't I had the same feeling Joey did. I was like, what are you talking? What? Why am I reading the same thing? So I had to make sure that I was reading the right link.
Mhm.
I like the Rose being at Ned's funeral, though. It does bring up a lot of questions about the retcon that they do later on. Or like, which Hobgoblin was the Rose friends with? Like, was it Ned? Brainwashed Hobgoblin? Was it Roderick? Does it matter? Probably not.
Probably not.
It puts a big plot hole into my theory that they were dating, if you didn't know which one it was. But maybe he just keeps the mask on, so who cares?
Well, yeah, exactly. Kinky that way.
Yeah, Alfredo's got some fun new character. That's good for Alfredo. I'm glad that he's still here, sticking around.
I love this rebrand. I love it so much.
Alfredo and Richard Fisk, best friends forever, I guess. It just seems like a lot of the story is given to the Rose's extras, which is fine. But I don't know. Wolverine's in it. Did we talk about Wolverine yet?
Have we mentioned him? I think Josh mentioned him a little bit.
He's there and he gives the worst advice. He's like, "Hey kid,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do. Thanks, Dad. Wow." Like he shows
So
up
you
on the
murdered a
dog.
lady. Whatever. Get over it.
Yeah, Peter. Stop being a
Best
pussy.
friend. Who cares? Yeah.
And it's Wolverine's best friend that he murdered. Well, that his best friend used Spider-Man to kill herself.
Right.
Technically.
Yeah.
But like, how did Wolverine find? Like, he went looking for him. That's creepy. He's
You
like,
can smell
Peter.
him.
Well, yeah, but like, he's like, Spider-Man's gonna be mopey about this. Better go give him a pep talk. It just seems out of nowhere. Like, I had totally forgotten that he
I like the
killed the
intention.
element.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly just because Jim Moseley wrote both. That's why he's here, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
But then there's
Oh,
the
go ahead.
one part where he's like, "Hey, do you got a match?" And Wolverine's like, "Nope. Gave up smoking." Which, all right.
And then he smokes later.
And then
Yeah.
then he's smoking
Bitch.
later. I'm like, "You liar! What is this, Andrew Garfield? Jesus, liar."
Just baiting all of the smokers.
I don't know. It's just like, and then Wolverine is like, "Come on, Spidey, we gotta fight these goons for fun because I like punching." And I'm just like, "What's going on? Your best friend just died, Logan. Aren't you a little sad?" I don't know. It just seems very odd.
to be honest,
Well, his best friend who was never in another comic before then.
Yeah, and never mentioned prior.
Yes.
I did like that Wolverine tried to get Peter to go by like being all altruistic, and then Peter was like, "But you actually just want to go because you like getting into fights." He's like, "Yeah, you got me." I think that was cool. At least it showed Wolverine's character, right?
And then Peter goes anyway.
Of course.
Just always a nerd, right? Always like, "Oh, I don't want to go with Wolverine, but I don't want him to think I'm a loser. Better go."
I kind of like that Wolverine was giving him bad advice. Like, Wolverine is definitely that friend after like a breakup where he's like, forget her. She sucked anyways. You just need to go out to the bar and have some fun. Like, that's totally what he does here. Is he's just like, yeah, sometimes you accidentally murder your friend's best friend, but sometimes you just got to go out and kill different people.
Yeah.
You know, like it
You
feels
kill enough women, you'll eventually kill the right one.
right. Like it feels very like dude bro-y and kind of like on brand for Wolverine and like his whole shtick. So I don't know. I think it kind of fit with his character, but I also get what you're saying though, where it does kind of seem like he showed up out of nowhere. But
And then like
You know what was
the
a
Arranger
better
shows
version
up
of this?
too.
Mm.
Oh, sorry.
Like a better version of this was when Colossus, broke up with Kitty Pryde after, Secret Wars. And he let Colossus basically get the shit kicked out of him by the Juggernaut. Like, that was a good kind of, okay, I'm teaching you a lesson here. Whereas this was just kind of, I'm going to drop by, say a little bit of nothing, and then leave, and then fuck off.
Yeah. Everyone loves that issue. It's a classic. I know exactly which one you mean.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, that was great. That's good, tough love right there. But this was just kind of, I don't know. So what?
Well-
He killed her.
So, Becca, did you want to say anything else?
Oh no, it's just like when the Arranger shows up and Peter's like, "Oh, Kingpin wants to see me, better go," and then Wolverine just follows him. It's like, what? You're not gonna you're just gonna go see him because he wants to talk to you?
Hey, why
Tell
don't
him
you
to-
ask Wolverine to come with?
Yeah, tell Arranger to go suck a dick. Like, why? It seems like the last 5 pages, so much happens. And they had a whole comic where this could all happen. They didn't have to just retell the things we already know happened. I don't know. It was a frustrating read, I think, because the fight was cool with Wolverine and all them, but it didn't matter. And there's actually even like a panel where is it? where near the end. Oh yeah, where
Is
like
it-
where Wolverine's like, well, that was fun, and Peter's like, yeah, but what does it mean?
Yeah, that's my favorite. He's like, you're joking, right?
What do you mean? What does it mean? You just punch some goons. But that was me. That was me this whole issue. I was like, what is it? Why? It's fine. Shout out to Alfredo's freaking Miata. Pop up and down headlights. Good for him.
All right, Kevin Jank, we've saved the best for last. We've all read
But
Amazing.
I already went.
Oh!
Ooh.
Moving on now.
Kidding.
But yeah, you haven't read Amazing 289, I assume, so you don't know the parallels. You came in blind. So what did you think of this issue overall?
I thought it was okay. Like you said, I didn't read that earlier issue, so I was just kind of confused why they were doing Ned Leeds' funeral so late. Like, hasn't he been dead a good while now? They're really letting the moss grow on this guy.
Yeah.
Even when they did it like a few issues ago, it was like a few months, I think, since he had passed. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really late now.
It's been 2 months since Amazing 289, but it's been like 6 months since Ned Leeds was actually killed. That's very
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy. And it's also crazy that like the last time I was on this show, he was already talking about trying to quit being Spider-Man. That was forever ago. Like, how long has this been going on?
like 15 months or something. Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
My God. Shit, or get off the pot.
So like, yeah, what do you think of the story and and everything?
I thought the Rose stuff was pretty good. The Spider-Man stuff was just the part that was less interesting to me. And especially towards the end, that whole Wolverine thing didn't really work. I appreciate the effort to go back and try to address that storyline for Spider-Man versus Wolverine. I just don't think this was very satisfying. And if this is just the end of it where he never thinks about that again, like I'll be like, really? That's all it took to get him to give him, cut himself some slack on that. Like that's pretty weak. And it does kind of bum me out. This one and Spectacular, where like Peter should know better, like what Betty is going through, considering like everyone he loves keeps dying. But he's just like, someone else could deal with it. I'm gonna go punch people.
Right.
Yeah, and not just that, but like, doesn't he calls Mary Jane?
Yeah.
He's like, this is a women's problem.
Yeah. Look here, woman, another woman that I've done wrong. Can you like take care of this sobbing vagina? Like, come on, Peter. And
Yeah. Show some heart.
maybe this is all he's got. I don't know.
You know what?
So I
Maybe
was thinking
he's
about
like,
guys with Wolverine.
maybe he's like, if I try to console Betty, I'll fuck it up because look at everything else I've ever done. So I'll just call someone a little more competent, not fully competent, because we know Mary Jane is a self-absorbed brat, but slightly more competent. Maybe.
Yeah.
Or he just didn't want to deal with it.
Potentially. Yep. But then he was gonna go call Black Cat to, nurse him up. Like, I feel bad. I'll call Black Cat. Too bad Betty can't call you.
Yeah. So, okay, what about the nuts and bolts? Did you like the art in this one, Jank?
It wasn't terrible, but it also wasn't great. There was some close-ups, like when he's like thinking of Black Cat, like that was like very detailed, and I liked that a lot. There's a couple of close-ups like that where it was pretty good, but for the most part, I would say I wasn't a huge fan of it.
Okay.
Yeah, not a lot stuck out to me as being particularly good. The Hobgoblin didn't look terrible. It's not the worst Hobgoblin by far.
Yeah, like some of the inking was really good, like the shadows and the detail I actually did like, but then some panels were kind of sloppy.
Yeah.
Yeah. At times the inking was pretty rough. But then, again, there are things that kind of stand out to be good. Like I don't know if the scan, there was like damage to the comic that was being scanned, but when the Rose is on the phone with Alfredo at the end of the comic and he drops the phone, there's just like no inking on his face. Like it's just gone.
Yeah.
But then like the panel right before, like that really skinny one is super well done. And the sketchiness of the inking, I think kind of works for how like frantic he is and like like something crazy is happening to him. He can't believe what he's hearing on the phone. Like another one of his friends is dying. It's fantastic. And then, the one next to it is just like, what is happening? What even is this?
My guess is that this is because of the flexograph process.
Right.
We talked about this before. Do we want to talk about it again?
We have. Might as well talk about it again.
Flexograph was an experimental printing format in the mid to late 80s where I think they started using plastic like printing plates instead of metal or something. Julie, you might know more about this. But most people hated it. Sometimes it brought out brighter colors, but overall it was really like grating on the eyes. And there was a lot of examples of that right there where like there'd just be like no black or like, something would go wrong, and it didn't last long. It only lasted a couple of years and they gave up on it. So I'm going to assume that's what is to blame for this. So anyway. Yeah, so Web of Spidey 29. I don't know what else to say about this. I had fond memories of it, but yeah, it was. I honestly did not remember it being this much of a rehash of Amazing 289. So overall, I think it's kind of like almost a useless issue because if you've read 289, you don't really need to read this, right?
Not much changes from that one to this one. We get the Wolverine stuff, but I have a feeling it's not super important that Wolverine is here. I'm not even sure he's going to be there the next issue. I'm assuming not.
You assumed right.
So like him showing up, while fun, does not matter. The only thing that you would be really missing from then till now is Alfredo.
His new look.
He is Alfredo's freaking cool new look. The fact that he was being chased by Hobgoblin and crashed into the river, and that the Rose is now chasing Hobgoblin down to the docks, which I assume as well. Again, I have not looked at Web of 30 yet, but they're going to recap that in the first page. So, like, is this issue important? Is this a must read? No, but I kind of had fun reading it. I know a lot of the stuff we already read before, but I don't know. I had a lot of fun with the Wolverine stuff. Alfredo is just so fucking cool. So I'd give it like a mild recommendation, but it is strange reading it after already reading Amazing 289. So
okay, G.I. Julie, what's your take? Your final take?
Recommendation?
Yeah, do you recommend this? Do you skip it? What do you think? If you were talking to other people about it?
It's not terrible. Okay. So yeah, go ahead. Like, if you accidentally read this, I wouldn't be like, oh, you must have had a terrible time. It's totally fine.
Okay.
It's got a lot of like great, like the style of the art is like, I like it. Mm-hmm. The gesture of the figures, I should say. Not really anything else.
Right. Okay. I can see that. Bex Luthor?
It was okay.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, read it, I guess. That way you're not so confused as to why Alfredo's just so cool all of a sudden.
Right. That's what's important.
I mean, that's what I took from it. So.
Okay.
I'm mad that my power couple is no longer, okay? And I'm just in mourning.
I think next issue is Alfredo's last appearance too, so
don't you dare.
No.
Because like he's been in other stuff.
Kevin Jank, what's your final word?
Well, not having read that issue of Amazing, I would say this was pretty good. I didn't hate it. There's definitely some good setup there with the Alfredo thing where there's like, oh, Alfredo's a good guy. I really love Alfredo. And then you think, oh, for sure, this guy's going to die. But then he doesn't because Spider-Man saves him. So I could see that being a good setup if, the Rose thinks he's dead, but something happens. That's a good setup for next issue. So for that reason, I'd say read it. I don't know where they're going to take it. They may just drop that completely, but, there's potential there.
I'll tell you something, okay? There's a little notice at the bottom of next issue's splash page that I have to read because it's so funny. This is what it says. Web of Spider-Man number 30. It says, this issue takes place right after Amazing 289 and Web of Spider-Man 29 and before Peter Parker number 128 and Amazing Spider-Man 290. Yeah, we know it's confusing, but no one ever said we knew what we were doing. It actually says that. Okay, anyway, on that note, we're going to jump to Amazing Spider-Man number 291. Featuring
Nobody ever said we do what we were doing.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Okay.
That should be our tagline.
Yes. That's a good one. We'll have to use that. Anyway, okay, so who's summarizing Amazing? Is this Becca?
Yeah, it's me.
All right, tell us what happened in Amazing 291.
So previously, Peter had just proposed to Mary Jane after thinking about it for about 5 seconds. So he's like, something's missing in my life. Marriage. That's what it is. He's like 22. Whatever. Cool cover. Peter fighting Spider Slayer. Immediately, first page, just the worst Mary Jane you've ever seen in your entire life.
I don't mind it. Anyway.
Oh, it's bad.
I like it.
Aw, I love it.
Yeah.
Terrible. Hate it.
Fun.
Awful. What are her eyebrows even? Girl. Anyway, so we start off from exactly where we left off, where Peter proposed, and Mary Jane goes, no, immediately. Just immediately. And so she's packing her things and getting ready to leave. There's something going on with her sister, and so she quickly leaves the apartment and leaves Peter standing there. She wouldn't even let him go with her to the airport. So he's pretty mopey about it, but his spider sense goes off. He looks around, there's nobody around, and then it goes away. And he's just thinking about that one time that his spider sense didn't go off and somebody grabbed his arm like 10 issues ago, which we know now was Eddie Brock, but what doesn't matter. Who cares? We found out that the van doesn't actually have anybody in that van because it's being controlled by Alistair Smythe, aka the Spider Slayer, who is using something to track Spider-Man and just destroys Mary Jane's apartment, just explodes it. And two of the neighbors are like, that's a strange noise. And it's literally getting smashed to bits, but whatever. So the two elderly women are like, that's a weird noise, better call the police. And this scares Alistair. So he makes his giant robot leave the premises, right? So no, regular police. And then we pan back over to Peter, who's moping because Mary Jane just said no, she wouldn't marry him. He's like, well, why not? I don't know, Peter. I could think of like 6 reasons off the top of my head why she should say no. The way you proposed, no ring, you weren't dating her.
That's a
Black
big
Cat
one.
may or may not still be living in your house. Just little things, but he's like, and then everyone in the story keeps repeating the same phrase, like, I don't know why it's going to be a long night and even longer tomorrow, which I don't understand why they keep repeating it. Who cares? So then we go back to Alistair Smythe, and he's talking, and he's doing what Alistair Smythe does, which is talk about how much he hates his dad and how much he wants to kill Spider-Man. So he both simultaneously wants his father to be proud, but also hates his father and wants to kill Spider-Man. And that is Alistair Smythe's entire character arc until the end of time. He is a big creepo with no redeeming qualities. So then we pan back over to Mary Jane, and she's on the plane to go visit her parents while Peter's moping in his apartment. And Alistair Smythe is also moping in his apartment. So Mary Jane goes to see her sister's place, and she knocks on the door, nobody answers. But her nephews that she has are playing on the front yard, and there's a woman who has been hired to take care of them, some babysitter, I guess. And she's like, oh, I thought you came here to take care of the boys while your sister was in jail. And Mary Jane's like, jail? I don't know. She was in jail, I guess. Thought she was just in trouble. So Peter puts back on his Spidey suit to clear his head, and he starts going swinging through the city, and then Alistair Smythe's drone picks him up and is like, there's Spider-Man, time to go kill him, and then time to put myself into this robot. Okay. Mary Jane goes to the jailhouse to visit her sister Gail. Gail is not even remotely happy to see her at all. They have just the most useless conversation. Mary Jane cries and leaves. Peter gets attacked by the Spider Slayer, back in New York. Mary Jane's in Pittsburgh, by the way. At a construction site, and he shoots him with some sort of gas that it's like an insect repellent that Alistair Smythe's father made that he uses to defeat Spider-Man. So then there's this construction worker that shows up in the middle of the fight, and he pins the Spider Slayer's arm to the ground to help Spider-Man, and Spider-Man was like, "Gee, thanks, bud," and I guess is no longer affected by the gas. So this whole time, Peter's like constantly tormented between like what he should be doing and like why Mary Jane wouldn't want to marry him and how he's like, what's going on? Meanwhile, Mary Jane shows back up at her sister's house, and there's somebody there, but we don't know who it is. Eventually, Alistair Smythe's van gets pulled over by the cops, but there's no one in it. So, well, he is in it, but there's no one driving it. He's in the van, but no one's driving it. So instead of just like doing nothing and waiting it out, he like gets out of the van in his big Spider Slayer robot. And Peter sees on the news that this big robot is just like walking around New York City. So he goes back out to refight the Spider Slayer. But just as he's about to leave, Mary Jane calls him. And she's like, "I'm sorry that I didn't want you to come with me, but I need you to come to Pittsburgh right now." And so and then she says that she loves him. And so Peter is very conflicted now because he's like, well, I got to go help Mary Jane, but also big giant robot just destroying the city. Like what do you choose, Peter? And amazingly, Peter picks Mary Jane. Peter picks the correct option. He goes, You know what? Oh.
No, I mean, like, he read the whole letter and was like, get out. I need a second with this amazing photo. And then he went after Mary Jane.
No. That's the next issue.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the next issue is the letter.
Okay, sorry. I'm mixing them all up. Continue.
Yeah, so Peter's like, you know what? It's New York. There's cops, there's superheroes. Fuck it. I'm going to go see Mary Jane. Goes and gets a plane. Peter Parker, no money, gets a plane ticket to Pittsburgh. But meanwhile, this Alistair Smythe is being able to track Spider-Man. He doesn't know who Spider-Man is, but he's tracking Spider-Man. And he tracks him to the airport. But they won't let him on, so he buys a ticket to another flight to Pittsburgh. So both Peter and Alistair Smythe are on their way to Pittsburgh to see Mary Jane. And that's where the issue ends.
So yeah, I don't know. I actually like this one. I didn't mind it at all. David Michelinie writing again, John Romita Jr. on pencils. It wasn't a great issue, and I was never a huge fan of the Spider Slayer at all. But besides all that, I actually did really enjoy this issue, to be honest. I thought it was fine. You know, like classic Spidey art. I don't know. I mean, the Spider Slayer has a cool kind of redesign by John Romita Jr., so I thought that was cool. Kevin Jank, you're our guest this week. What'd you think of this one?
I really liked it a lot. This I had read before. I bought like the Spider-Man The Wedding trade paperback way back in the day. This was all part of that, and I ended up buying the issues again later on. So yeah, big fan. Like John Romita Jr. is pretty much as good as it gets when it comes to Spider-Man artists for me. So that was great. The only thing I didn't really like was, I guess, that whole thing with the construction worker. That felt a lot like the first Spider-Man movie. Like, you mess with one New Yorker, you mess with all of us.
Yeah.
That was a little cheesy, but
Yeah.
I did like that. The Spider Slayer ends up getting just his big master plan is foiled by the people at the airport, just not letting him go. Just like a regular dude, just foiled by everyday occurrences.
One thing I liked in this, and I think David Michelinie does this a lot, is he'll have a little idea, like, for example, the spider or the tracers that he uses. I like that idea that he's like, he's like, my dear father had stationary eyes all over Manhattan to keep track of Spider-Man, but as usual, I've gone him one better. My electronic eyes are mobile. And I just think that's cool that every time David Michelinie brings back a classic villain, he ups their power just a little bit, not like radically, just enough that it's something new. I always think that's cool. So,
You know what was very stupid of him though is like he's already now been paralyzed because he was electrocuted the last time. Like, why are you still making spider slayers that you have to get inside of? Like, just remote control these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
You got the remote control car. You might as well.
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. It's funny. I never thought of the Spider Slayers as classic villains, but they are from the old days, right?
Yeah. Very early on.
I'm going to look them up quickly right now as we're talking.
I think it was like Amazing 25, something like that.
So that means that he was created by Steve Ditko?
The original Smythe, maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Spencer?
Smythe was created. Yes, Amazing 25. So Steve Ditko. So he is a classic villain. I don't know. I guess I just never thought of him as one, but I guess he fits. But
yeah, I actually had this issue when I was younger. This is one of the ones I actually reread a lot. So reading this again was like super fun and nostalgic. I've actually always kind of liked Alistair Smythe because of the 90s cartoon. He was kind of a bigger character there, and he was like he was always teamed up with Kingpin in the show, and Kingpin would like fund him, but he didn't really like Kingpin or how he like ran his business. So it was kind of like a fun duality of like, I've got to work with this complete asshole, but I've got no other choice, or else I wouldn't be able to do my experiments and get back at Spider-Man. And he's always like upgrading the armor and the Slayers and everything. So it's super fun. So reading this, again, was pretty nostalgic and fun. I had a good time reading it. I don't mind in comics, specifically Spidey comics, when they do the whole you mess with one of us, you mess with all of us. But it didn't feel like it fit here. Like it felt really out of place and out of nowhere. Like this would have been much better in Web of. Instead of Wolverine showing up, like a bad guy shows up when he's deciding whether he should be Spider-Man or not still. And then the city backs him up when he's like backed into a corner. And he realizes that like, while he does have people that like hate him, he's got people that like really respect what he does and look up to him. And he's like making a difference in the city, so he can choose to keep being Spider-Man. Right. Or at least be like one of the reasons that's like steering him in that direction. So yeah, it felt just a little out of place in this one, I think, because really there was no reason for it to be there. It's not like he saved him earlier on in the comic or something, and then he comes back with he comes back to save him. Like nothing. It's just some dude that like Ex Machina swings in and saves the day for no particular reason.
Right.
So yeah, it does feel a little out of place.
G.I. Jolie, what's your take?
I really like this issue too. There was not really much wrong with it. I really, really, really want to know about Mary Jane's family. I want to know who Gail is. I want to know about these boys. I want to know why she's in jail. It's weird that it's like, okay, so Mary Jane's from Pittsburgh, maybe? Not originally from New York? I don't know. I don't care, but I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm suddenly interested in Mary. Do you know what? I'm interested in her background and her everything around her, and not really her. I still don't really. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm like, after Becca called her a spoiled brat, I was like, that's right. She is sort of dumb. I don't like her. I've never really liked the Mary Jane character. Well, she's not been my favorite. There have been other like Spidey love interests I like more, but what did she do that they're not sisters, other than leave for New York?
Yeah, I think they briefly touched on it in a comic that we were reading where like she needed help with the kids or something, and she was pretty much like, that's not my problem. Right? Am I misremembering?
I think no, she was she was first appeared in Amazing 246, so we definitely read a story with her recently. Yeah.
Yeah, something comes up where like her sister's husband or boyfriend or whatever it is leaves. So she's like left to take care of her kids by herself. And MJ's like, yeah, sorry, that's not my problem. I don't have time for snot-nosed brats while I'm trying to be a model. So no thanks. Like it was something like really weird and out of character for MJ. So it looks like, yeah, they're maybe trying to like tie those loose threads and like maybe make her a more redeeming character, especially since they're ramping up to have MJ marry Spidey. So
yeah, it just seemed like it happened even before that. Because she says, the sister says something like, well, when Tommy was due and then his father abandoned us, it's like, okay, so the other boy might have been already there, but like definitely your second nephew, you've no idea about him. You've never seen him because he wasn't even born. And you haven't seen your sister in 4 freaking years? What's wrong with you? Like, what is actually wrong with you? I don't know. Do you know what?
She is in jail though, so maybe there's a reason she hasn't seen her.
Yeah, I mean, like, but she didn't even know that Gail was in jail. She didn't even know.
Well, something's amiss, and hopefully we're going to find out, right? Soon enough.
You say soon enough, but I don't trust it.
Next issue. Anyway, Bex
They got to do
Luthor.
something while they're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Bex Luthor, what do you think?
Well, yeah, Alistair Smythe has to kidnap Mary Jane again, right? Because that's what has to happen.
Maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Again. And then he's like, this time I'm almost certain you're Spider-Man because the drones brought me to Pittsburgh and you're in Pittsburgh.
Uh-huh.
No, I also really like this one. I actually, despite thinking Mary Jane is a snot-nosed little brat sometimes, I actually really like her because I too am a brat. And I just relate to that. I also relate to the fact that your entire family is in one place and you just, bye. Oh, that sucks for you anyway. I'm busy. Very relatable. I'm with Jolie though. I want to know everything about Mary Jane. Like at the moment they're like, oh, Mary Jane's sister, this is her family. This is her family drama. I'm like, I don't care about Spider-Man or the Spider Slayer. What's going on? Mary Jane's who's there? It's probably her dad, right?
Right.
I would assume. Because her mom's dead, right? That's like a thing. Mary Jane's mom dies and then she goes to live with Aunt Anna in New York, right?
Yes.
That's like her origin, kind of whatever. So it's interesting that she probably hasn't been back since her mother's been dead, maybe, and like hasn't seen her sister in that long. Enough that she doesn't even talk about it, but she cries when the boys are there. Like she seems like she genuinely cares. And in the last 10 or so issues, it seems like Mary Jane's actually kind of growing up. She seems like less jealous about all the other women in Peter's life and more understanding. She's cool with the whole Spider-Man thing. It's just they're growing up, right? And they're gonna get married and it's gonna be great.
Yay.
I love the amount of automated vans in 80s comic books. I just want to say that.
Uh-huh.
Everyone has a van that drives itself. This guy does. Punisher does. Like
Hobgoblin.
Hobgoblin's got a van.
Good point. Good observation.
Just good vans, right? I don't know. It's just I feel like the whole Alistair's like it's like this comic book. They were like, oh, we're gonna deal with interpersonal family drama with Peter Parker and Mary Jane, but we need a big robot. Like, okay. Like, what is it? What is the Spider Slayer gonna? What is it gonna add to the to Mary Jane realizing like she does love Peter? Like she's figured this out on her own. But what's this gonna add to that? Like she's already figured out that she needs Peter. Peter's already figured out that he needs her. Peter's already figured out that his priorities lie in Mary Jane and not Spider-Man. And so we've already established that. Now there's just going to be a big robot and Peter's going to have to save Mary Jane and she's going to realize that she loves him, even though she already realized that she loves him and needs him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I like the big choice about, should I fight the Spider Slayer or go get Mary Jane? Like, the Spider Slayer is only interested in killing you, Spider-Man. So I don't think it's really a danger to everyone, the people of New York.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yeah, because like he gets pulled over by the regular police. He's like, "Oh, don't want any trouble," and like he goes to the he could just blow up the airport and like commandeer a plane, but he's like, "Ah, rats! I don't have a ticket. Better buy one."
Word it again.
Yeah, I guess the choice is not that. Well, I mean, that's the thing is this issue is enjoyable, but it's not a masterpiece. And I guess that's what makes it not a masterpiece is the Spider Slayer subplot is less interesting than the Gale subplot, right? I think we all are more interested in what's going to happen with Gale and Mary Jane, right?
Yeah, I think that for me, what is like weird about this comic, and I feel like is kind of done in the not right way. Sorry, my words aren't working properly, but I think that I think MJ should not have asked Peter to go, and Peter should have just made that decision on his own. Of like, I'm gonna go there and be there for MJ because she needs me. I'm finally gonna put her before being like putting her and like her and I's relationship before me and Spider-Man's relationship, and not have MJ kind of be like, "Hey, do you mind putting that off to the side and coming to help me in Pittsburgh?" I feel like it feels maybe more of like, well, I did just ask her to marry me. Maybe I should go and help her out, right? Like, if it was something that he decided to do on his own, it would feel also less like she's the damsel in distress again. Even though she's not in danger, it still feels like, I can't do this without you, Peter Parker. It's like, I don't know. I feel like it would have been a lot stronger for him to just decide on his own that he needs to put this whole thing aside and do what's best for his relationship first. They could have even had a scene where we think he's like racing to go to the Spider Slayer, and he's like swinging through New York. He's like, I'm gonna be late. I gotta get there quickly. And we think, yeah, he's gonna go defeat Alistair finally. And then we see him like running through like busy crowd, and then he like stops at the front gate and says like, one ticket to Pittsburgh, please, and then end it. So we realize by the end he's choosing MJ over Spider-Man.
So you put a lot of thought into this, eh?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Someone had to.
I don't know. I like finding solutions to like problems I have with the stories rather than just being like,
I was saying it sucks, man. That's what I like.
Yeah, because I think a lot of it is really good.
Right.
Like they're really. I love some of the ideas that are here. I just think that with some time, it could have been better done. And again, I know at the time too, it's like they're pumping these issues out. There's not a late issue ever. Right, like you do it and you get it out the door, and it's got to be out on time. So they're on like a super tight deadline, and it's also like, in hindsight, it's easy to be like, well, this is what I would change after you wrote this entire story, rather than having to think about it on the spot. But yeah, it's a bummer that at times they have to kind of like pump these out, because I feel like just with like a couple of small changes, this could be one of like those really memorable issues.
Right.
I just want to say, just in defense of Peter a little bit, he does contemplate just going after her a little. Like he's in his apartment and he's doing that cool thing where he's just like pacing on his walls, which I really like when Spider-Man does. He's like on the ceiling and like just whatever. But he's like, oh, maybe I should have gone after her. And then he's like, well, what if she would have been very mad at me for butting in or hate me when I'm trying to marry her? Can't have that. So he gives it a little bit of thought. He's like, maybe I should have. I was like, maybe she didn't want me to. And it's like, well, that's the risk, right, Peter? You gotta. If she didn't, she seemed distraught. Maybe call her.
Right.
Give her a ring. I don't know.
So I can say, I think my final take on this is, I think it is not a masterpiece, but it is a classic issue of Amazing. Again, David Michelinie, who I think has written more Amazing Spider-Man than anyone except Stan Lee. I could be wrong on that, but he's written quite a bit. John Romita Jr., what else can you say about him? He's great. So yeah, classic issue. Yep, and we're going to see more of this creative team next issue. So I definitely recommend this one. Kevin Jank, what do you think?
Oh yeah, big recommend. Looking back, it's so weird the way they chose to do the whole Spider-Man marriage, where it's just like they weren't even dating, then all of a sudden he proposes, and then within like 2 months, oh, they're married. Like no engagement, nothing.
You're right. Good
Just,
point. No engagement.
Just bam.
Right.
Yeah.
Superman
They could have
was
milked that for a whole year, but
right. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. Good. Okay. And Josh, what's your final recommendation?
Yeah, it is a pretty good issue. I like the Spider Slayer. I like a lot of the stuff that happens in it. It's not a perfect one, but I would recommend it to anybody who likes Spider-Man and maybe wants to know more about MJ and her relationship with Peter. I feel like even with the last issue, it wasn't awful, if I'm remembering correctly. So hopefully with this next one, this will be like a good 3-issue arc that you can like recommend to somebody. But yeah, reading this one again was super fun, and I had a blast.
Awesome. Okay, G.I. Jolie.
Yeah, read this one. It's there's just read it.
Okay. Bex Luthor.
Yeah, no, I like this one. I like this one a lot, especially if you're a fan of. There's a big robot fight, but if you're a fan of like the drama in the superhero lives, like I am, this is a good one. Yeah, I love the soap opera.
Yep. Me too. All right. With that, we are going to move on to Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man 129. I'm going to talk about this one. This is the final showdown with our favorite supervillain, the Foreigner. Kevin Jank, you familiar with the Foreigner?
Oh sure, yeah.
Okay.
They brought him back recently again.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, by popular demand, I guess. Somebody must have been out there.
That was me.
Saying we want Foreigner.
Everybody's chomping at the bits for Foreigner.
Well, they're like, we gotta.
Requesting the '80s band, but no,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you got this guy.
They gotta figure out who to put in the next Spider-Man movie, so they're bringing all the other like old school bad guys back and see which one sticks.
Yep. Maybe the Spot will be
I'm
after
holding
that.
out for chance.
I hope so. I really hope the Spot comes back in the movies.
Aren't they like teasing the Spot's gonna be in
Into
Spider-Verse?
the Spider-Verse. I really hope so.
But anyway, so last issue, if everyone remembers, Black Cat in her new costume was living in Peter's apartment, and Peter came home and caught her on the phone scheming with the Foreigner about how she was gonna, help him kill Spider-Man and blah blah blah. So she's been found out. So Peter Parker's all happy, or not happy. He's all angry. And so on the second page here, first we get this huge recap of everything that's been going on, and on the second page he's like, Felicia, and he rips the door off the hinges, and she's like, whoops, gotta go, honey, company's here. So then they have like a little mini fight. Not much happens, but she throws like a little bomb, and he envelops it with his spider webs, and so it doesn't do any damage. Then he's trying to run out after her, but he gets blocked by Flash Thompson, who I don't think he's
Again.
Yeah, like I think he's visited him in the hospital, but hasn't Flash Thompson been on the run for like 15 months or something?
He also helps them when they're doing the Scooby-Doo stuff.
That's in
right.
Hobgoblin Lives.
Right.
Oh, right. Sorry, you're
That's
right.
like
You're right.
10 years later. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm sorry.
But he has he's been cleared of all like hobgoblinness. I'm pretty sure at this point, and he's in the hospital.
Right.
And then he leaves the hospital
Right.
because Betty.
So
Betty needs him.
Yeah. So he collapses, and then we cut over to the police station, and we see Chris Keating, who is talking with Stan Carter, who we know as the Sin Eater, who now has a stutter and a limp because Spider-Man beat the crap out of him and left him a cripple. And so he is actually trying to clear Spider-Man of the crime of murdering. Wait, who did he murder again?
Blaze.
Who?
Blaze in his
Oh, right.
cell.
Blaze.
Because it was Keating that killed him, right?
Right. It was
We know that.
Right. So Keating's like, huh, okay.
No, this is not Keating.
Oh,
This
no, this is yeah, you're right. It's not Keating. It's
Torque, Detective Torque.
Torque, right? It's Torque. So he's like, huh, he's onto something. So then basically, so Flash Thompson and Peter walk over to Betty Brant's apartment, and she still is like, having problems and not accepting the fact that Ned Leeds has died. So, Flash Thompson starts yelling at her, and then she slaps him across the face, and then she finally, breaks down and admits it. She's like, "Oh, he's dead." And then it's kind of sad because she's like, "He's dead," and they can't even remember what he looks like. And then Peter's like, "Maybe I should get the hell out of here." So then he takes off. He's like, "Geez," and he was gonna say nuts, but he'd already used that reaction for when Jean DeWolf was murdered. So now he just says, "Geez." So anyway,
he said crud.
Yeah, that's right.
It was
right.
when Jean DeWolf was murdered. It was crud.
Yeah.
And now Ned's murdered, and it's geez.
Yeah. so anyway, so we cut over to the foreigner who reunites with Black Cat, and they're like, "Okay, let's get it on." Then we cut over to Peter Parker, who is in the police station, and he's looking for Chris Keating, and he goes over, and Chris Keating's not there, but he goes over to his desk, and then the phone rings. So he's like, "Oh, well, maybe I should answer it." So then he answers it, and sure enough, what a coincidence, it's Black Cat. And Black Cat supposedly doesn't know it's Peter, so she's like, "Tell Chris Keating to meet me at 405 West 45th Street." And he's like, "Oh, this is perfect. I'm gonna like set her up and whatever." So then, just so everyone knows, in the previous issue, Silver Sable had hired J. Jonah Jameson. Sorry, other way around. J. Jonah Jameson hired Silver Sable to murder Spider-Man. Now she's come back and said, "You know what? I don't want your money." Throws the deposit down minus, certain amount of money for expenses. I think it was like $25,000 she kept or something.
She keeps 75.
75,000 for expenses.
Yeah.
So then we cut back over to the foreigner, and he just finished doing his business with Black Widow or Black Cat. And then Spider-Man smashes through the window. And I really like the dialogue here. And the Black Cat, so it's the Black Cat like takes off, and then Foreigner's in the bed. He's like, "Felicia, were you expecting company?" "Oh, it seems not. No matter. Give us just a moment to tidy up the flat and make the bed." This is pretty cool. He throws the mattress at Peter and at Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's like, "Oh, not bad. You're stronger than you look. Now try. Can you do this though?" And he grabs the mattress and rips it in half, which I think is pretty cool because I've never seen Spider-Man do that. So that's pretty cool. So then Foreigner is like, "Oh dear, dust bunnies. I'll be back in a tick." And then he rolls underneath the mattress, and Spider-Man's like, "Oh no, you don't, Foreigner." And he kicks the mattress, and Foreigner's actually escaped through like a, what's it called, like a trap door underneath the bed. So now we get this really cool scene.
But you did also miss the best line in the issue, which is, "Hello, 911. Spider-Man's broken into my apartment."
Oh yeah, he's trying to kill my boyfriend. Hurry! I love that. She's putting
hello, 911.
Yeah. Anyway, so Spider-Man breaks through the trap door, and I love
back to the convenient trap door under the bed.
That he fought. Yeah.
I love
that means it was there before. Like,
yeah.
What?
Foreigner's thought of everything. That's why he's Foreigner. He's got a British accent. Come on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's thought of everything except
All
that
British
clock on the
people have
wall.
that.
Yeah. So then Spider-Man is standing there, facing the Foreigner, and he's like, "I don't like this." He's standing there too calmly, that look in his eyes. Like, what? All of a sudden, Foreigner's not there. He's like, "What?" And the Foreigner's behind him. He punches him in the back of the head. He's like, "How did he move so fast? Why didn't my spider sense work?" So then he's looking at him again, and then all of a sudden, Foreigner just is right in front of him, punches him in the stomach, punches him in the head. And then, as Becca pointed out, as Spider-Man is getting the crap beaten out of him, there is a clock on the wall, which the reader is supposed to take note of, right? And keen-eyed readers will notice that the hands on the clock keep jumping ahead. I'm like, what is going on? So then, Spider-Man's, talking to Foreigner, and Foreigner's talking to him. And then all of a sudden, Foreigner will just show up like it's almost like he's leaping through the room like 10 feet. And he's like right in front of him. And he's like shoving against the wall and chopping him and punching him. And then Spider-Man is like, what is going on? He can't figure out what he's doing. So he's getting the crap beaten out of him. And then just in the middle of this huge fight, Black Cat leans her head through like the hole in the ceiling. She's like, anybody need help down there? And Peter's like, no. And then we cut over to Silver Sable, who's like taking off, and that doesn't matter. Then we cut back, and Spider-Man webs up Foreigner's hand, and he's kind of getting a few shots in, but not many. Then Foreigner uses Spider-Man's web to start choking him. And then Foreigner does what any good supervillain would do, and that's bite Spider-Man. And then they both smash through the window, and they're falling through the air. And then Spider-Man's like, gotta shake him fast. Everything's going black. Can't see. Of course, that's got to be it. So then he turns around and he punches the Foreigner. Foreigner lands, and then he's like, hypnosis, that's how you do it. Every time we made eye contact, because what he does is he's standing there and he waits, and the Foreigner tries to sneak up on him, but he punches him. So he's figured out that what's happening is Foreigner is hypnotizing him, then just walking up and just punching Spider-Man in the face. But Spider-Man figured it out because just like the keen-eyed reader, he looked at the clock, and now he's putting it all together, right? So anyway, then all of a sudden, it turns out twist ending, Black Cat was not working for the Foreigner. Black Cat drops this envelope down to Torque, which gives photographic proof that it was actually Chris Keating that killed Blaze. So which proves Spider-Man's innocence. So Spider-Man is like, oh, you know what? Okay, whatever. So then he takes off, goes back home, changes into Peter. Mary Jane is there. There's a guy fixing the door. Mary Jane covers for him. They talk. They figure out what's going on. Spider-Man then opens up the letter, and then Black Cat explains everything that's been going on for 15 issues or something. And she basically explains that the whole time she was actually playing Foreigner and Spider-Man against each other. Even though she was pissed off at Spider-Man, she still ended up helping him. And she's explaining what's going on. And somehow there is a photo of the Black Cat taken with a 2021 drone from 20 feet off of the bow of his boat, right? And she's posing in a bikini. And it's kind of funny because as she's narrating, she's like, by the way, don't show this picture to your redheaded friend, Mira Jean, unless, of course, you want to drive her mad with jealousy. All of my love, Felicia. And then Mary Jane's like, cute pictures. She must have been very chilly posing for it. So that's a cool little moment. So then Peter Parker, eternal asshole, is like, MJ, I kind of like to be alone for a while. I know that I asked you to marry me in the other Spider-Man comic, but for now I want to be alone. Because I want
with this picture of Felicia Cat.
Yeah. I just think 8 minutes. Okay. So then Mary Jane walks out of the door, and then Peter looks at the letter and he's like, I must be nuts. Mary Jane, hold it. And of course, Mary Jane's still standing at the door waiting for him. She's like, that's right. Every time you go to pieces, little Mary Jane's supposed to patch you back together. Luckily for you, I always carry a bottle of Elmer's glue with me for just such occasions. Now let's just discuss how you feel about Felicia Hardy. And he's like, Felicia who? Whoa. And then we cut over to Silver Sable. Well, it turns out that Silver Sable and Foreigner are actually kind of working together because they used to be married. And even though Silver Sable doesn't really like Foreigner, Silver Sable is giving Foreigner a ride back to Europe or wherever he's from. And voila, that's the end. Guess what, folks? That is the end of the Foreigner saga. I hope you enjoyed it. I love it.
Julie's face.
Great. Go ahead, Becca. You sound like you had a lot to say. What'd you think of this issue?
Jelly's face when you're like, and that's the end of the Foreigner. She's like, no, it's fucking not. Yeah, that's how it ends.
That's the end.
Everybody's fine. It's just status quo. It's like the Foreigner never existed. When do they find out that the Foreigner and Chris Keating are the same person?
I don't know.
30 years from now, I'm sure. It doesn't matter at all. I want to say this is one of my favorite written issues in a long time, actually. It is on purpose hysterical. And you don't get that a lot from these 80s comics. They're mostly hysterical, not on purpose. But I want to point out the panel where he's fighting the Foreigner and there's the clock in the background. And Foreigner's like, I'm disappointed, mate. Felicia said you were formidable. And then he's like, yeah, well, what else did she say about me? And he's like, oh, she made other comparisons between you and I. You came up a bit short, I'm afraid. And it's just a zoomed in panel of his face.
Yep.
Comedy.
Yep.
Comedy gold. I laughed for like 2 whole minutes. I was like, that's funny. That's a dick joke in an 80s Spider-Man comic. And it's funny. It was funny then, and it's funny now. So what do we know? What do we learn? Dick jokes always funny. Always.
Agreed.
Timeless.
That like silent panel is perfect.
It's so good. They
Yeah.
could have put a joke. They could have put Peter going, crud. They could have done something, but they didn't. It's just
Yep.
a silent panel of his face, and it conveys. And he's wearing the Spidey mask, but it conveys so much emotion, and I love it. I love it to bits. Actually, that whole fight scene, even when Mike pointed out Felicia going like, "Does anyone need any help down there?" It's all hilarious. It's the
Right.
funniest fight,
I agree.
and because the dialogue is written really well. I had a blast reading this one, even though it was kind of all over the place sometimes. It wraps up the Foreigner saga very poorly. Just the most anticlimactic. I guess I'll just go to Europe. Also, Silver Sable was my ex-wife. Huh?
Uh-huh.
And the whole Flash and Betty thing is just like whatever. Like, I if it was just Felicia, Foreigner, Spidey, and then Mary Jane at the end, that's all you need. The Mary Jane stuff at the end is funny too, where he's just like, "Oh, just leave me alone with this picture of Black Cat, please and thank you, Mary Jane." She's like, "All right, I guess I'm just here in short shorts, whatever." And then he's like, "Oh wait, no. Good, great.
I'm just here in short shorts and actual flesh.
Yeah, it's just me, Mary Jane, hot as hell, right here." And you're still thinking about the Black Cat? Like, get over it. Also, Peter is delightfully jacked in this, and I'm very into it. That black T-shirt.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Peter Parker. Where has this black T-shirt been my whole life? This is great. Hello. Sometimes I
He
forget
looks like
why.
Hydro Man.
Yeah.
Just sometimes I forget why all these women are constantly over Peter Parker because he's such a dumbass. But then it's like, oh right, himbo, got it. He's
Yeah.
just a big, beautiful, dumb idiot.
G.I. Julie, what's your take? What do you think? Do you agree with Becca?
The art is terrible. Of course I agree with Becca. It was like watching like an 80s my god, I almost said Charlie Sheen. What is his name? With the white hair and the airplane and the slapstick comedy.
Oh, Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, it was like watching the fight scene is like watching a Leslie Nielsen movie. Like, there's a trap door under his bed, which means he put it there because he thought he would need a trap door under his bed for later. Like,
He was right.
In his apartment.
yeah. So anyway, I mean, I'm yelling because I don't have that kind of foresight. I think that was just I thought that I hated it at first, and then I reread it, and really it was just my judgment was being clouded by my hatred for Felicia, for Black Cat. I don't like the way that she looks in the 80s. She's like hyper 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. I think styles come from her, actually.
Yeah.
All fashion.
And like Paula Abdul.
Yeah, those two together.
Those two together have shoulder pads that only, just unexplainable. The only Salt and Pepper can explain, actually. I don't really understand the whole drama that's happening under, like, the underlying drama, and it's probably because I missed the last episode and I didn't read the comics from the last episode. Did I miss it? Yes, I did.
I don't remember.
Yeah, because Felicia's new suit was in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I had missed the whole jail thing that Peter's being framed for. So it was mostly just like confusing. So having them wrap that up, like now I get it. Like wrap up the story in another comic. I don't like that. Just wrap it up in the comic that I'm reading currently and then move on to another cool story. Like just one and dones. But also like self-contained stories can be part of an overarching story. Hello, serial television. But I don't know what it is about comics where it's just like, no, we'll wrap it up in half of the next issue. And like, I don't know. I don't like that. So
Okay.
it just led to confusion. Also, didn't Ned Leeds' wife, Betty, were her and Flash not in like an affair?
Yeah, they were in an emotional affair. I don't know if they actually like.
No, I feel like they touched each other.
Oh, okay.
I don't know that it was completely emotional. Yeah. I mean, it's for the kids, sure, but like I don't think that they divulged what they I don't think that they completely divulged what they did, but I'm sure there was touching.
Right. Do you think that there was touching when Peter Parker had that photo, like for those brief seconds that he was alone, or was that also just off camera?
Like, was Peter touching himself? Oh, absolutely.
I think so too. Anyway, okay.
He was like, look at me in this shirt.
I was touching myself. I was like, why aren't they showing us this picture of Felicia? It's so nasty. Apparently it's so good, but they're not showing us how good it is, and I was just like foaming, and I hate
because the artist couldn't draw it hot enough, so he decided not to at all.
Apparently they can get
choice.
Okay, Kevin Jank, what do you think? What's your take on this issue?
Oh, I love Peter David. So the writing here I thought was great. It was very funny. The beginning section where he's like, all right, I found out Black Cat's been playing me, so I got to play her just like she's been playing me and play real cool here. And then just immediately punches the door in. Like, it was so good. Oh, I love it. It's so good. The art was atrocious. Peter's weight seems to fluctuate wildly from scene to scene. Like the part where he's going after the foreigner down the trap door there, he suddenly looks like he's gained a whole bunch of weight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the thing. I do like this artist, but you're right. Very inconsistent, eh?
Yeah, and some of the faces are really wonky. Like when he's looking at the picture of Black Cat later on, like it looks like the face is in the wrong part. Like he was supposed to start closer to the edge, but it's just weird. And I'm not a fan of it at all. This is pretty much bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, it's like
I can't argue with that.
It's like I feel like this is an artist who learned how to draw anatomy by drawing other illustrated, like by aping other pictures.
Right.
Because the way that he draws Mary Jane, it's like he's drawing a man. Like he started with the anatomy, the bone structure of like a male.
And then puts boobs on it.
Yeah, because also look at the way that this and this person has never drawn shorts or clothing on anything but I don't know.
Yeah, you want to talk about fluctuating sizes. Her shorts are different sizes from panel to panel.
Yeah.
I think that final shot of Black Cat on the boat is not bad. I think it's fine, but
yeah, but that's not the one we're talking about. We're talking about Mary Jane.
Yeah, I'm just saying he can draw women, but
But it's like Mary Jane in most of these is Barbie skinny. She's like terrifyingly thin in the waist. It's like she doesn't look right, dude.
No.
And like that's the thing
is this Black Cat picture where she's on the boat. She's got like a little hip like thing, and she's like drawn, and it like is sexy, but it's like she looks fine. Like she is a thin woman, but the Mary Jane looks skeletal. Like it's like Jolie said, it's a man. And then he just erased the waist and just put boobs on it.
Yeah. Like right underneath the panel of Black Cat in a bikini is like the weirdest rendering of Mary Jane I've ever seen. Like she's leaning over to see the photo and she's like making that snide comment about it being chilly, but like the way her arm is, you can see side boob.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just J. Scott Campbell isms, right? Where you just always see side boob whenever you're drawing, whenever arms are doing anything.
Yeah, and I didn't say this man couldn't draw. I just said it looks as though he's learned to draw from other drawings, not actual anatomy. Because that is 100%. Like, if you're looking at that picture again of Felicia Hardy in a bikini, the way that her belly is, that is something that's learned. It's not actual anatomy.
Mm-hmm. And again, going off what you were saying, it looks like that one panel of Felicia on the boat is almost like copied from like a reference image. Like it looks almost realistic in its proportions and everything. Even compared to like the males and how they're exaggerated in this comic, and they don't look like real humans. This looks almost like the proportions of a real human. So that definitely almost feels like it's out of like style compared to everything else.
Yeah, suspiciously good compared to everything else.
I mean, you can even look at the next panel of her looking at this like frumpy woman walking that looks like a caricature walking next to her. Like it's such a weird juxtaposition that you can tell when he's looking at reference and not looking at
what's funny is now that I think about it, I was first exposed to Alan Kupperberg on Transformers number 5 and 6, and in those issues, I'm not kidding, in one panel Megatron will be like, as tall as a house, and in the next panel, he's as tall as a mountain. Obviously, Alan Kupperberg's specialty is not consistency, so definitely he needs issues
You
there.
could do that in Transformers, though, because they transform.
Well, but like he's in his robot form, he should be the same height, right?
Yeah, I'm just saying that would be my argument. It's like, he transformed into his bigger.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'll buy it.
So wait, did everybody give their full review yet?
No, Jank was like talking about the art, then we cut in about the art, but I don't think he talked about the story.
Oh yeah, the story was great. Was Peter David still the main writer at this point, or was he just brought back to kind of wrap up the Foreigner thing?
He was the main writer, but I think I don't know. It's confusing because he was fired by Jim Owsley, but Jim Owsley is not even the editor anymore, but Jim Owsley's writing amazing. So honestly, I don't know exactly what was going on behind the scenes, but Peter David was definitely on his way out, but he was still around because he wrote Amazing 289 and he wrote this issue. So he's obviously still around. So yeah. But I mean, this was a character he'd introduced in Peter Parker 115. So this is like, 14 issues in the making. I personally think his power is really cool. The fact that he can hypnotize people, that's a pretty unique power as far as I can tell.
Yeah,
right?
It's a good one-off. I don't know if it's like, how can Spider-Man find him again? It'd be super easy, but for not knowing what it is when you go into it, yeah, that makes sense. I like it as a one-off.
Yeah.
The Foreigner's also like a master of disguise and stuff too, right? Like he's got other tricks.
Yeah, he's got a trap door under his bed, right? So
and a bunch of masks.
Right. Use that. Anyway, okay.
And an ex-wife with lots of money.
Yeah.
Lots of twists. So here's the thing. You know what? I think the Amazing Spider-Man, definitely has better art. But I think the story in this one, even though it's a little bit sloppier, I like the story in this one better. Becca, what did you think?
Just for comedy's sake, this one was my favorite. Just the panel of Peter's face. That's gonna be one of my top 10 favorite moments when we do our next 100 episode roundup. Is gonna be that dick joke, and maybe that says something about me, but I don't care. It's funny.
And maybe you could turn it into a meme too, right?
Sure.
No, that. Anyway,
no,
okay.
But just the little tidbits of when Peter's like, gotta think this rationally, and then just busts open the door. That's funny. There's so much good stuff in this that I could kind of overlook the dumb stuff. Like, why is the Sin Eater there? Who cares?
Yeah. That was
Um,
weird.
Why does Peter answer the phone at the police station and nobody questions it? Like they just let him answer the captain's phone? That's probably not okay. I don't know, just a bunch of little things like does Jonah hiring Silver Sable to kill Peter go anywhere? Probably not.
No, I think that's the wrap up, right? That's it.
Yeah. He hired her. She said no. Okay,
The end.
cool.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, no. Nah, that dick joke, man. This is a good issue.
Yep, that's top notch.
I'm
looking
love
at
it.
it right now, and I'm like, this is so good.
It's great. So, okay, I really, really like this fight scene. The dialogue is super funny. Like everybody has said, that joke is hilarious. The empty panel is great. I didn't like this issue. I hated it. I don't know. I just was not a big fan of all of these weird subplots just tying up for no reason. Like Flash. Betty for the last few issues has been like insane. Like she's deranged after the death of her husband. Like she's losing it, and all it took was Flash to be like, "Hey, he's dead." Okay, and she's like, "Oh, you're right. Why didn't I think?" It's just like what? This is such a shitty way to wrap this up. Felicia framed Peter for the murder of his friend, who he's been upset over for the past like little while. The person that he could not save, he's now being framed for murdering him. And Felicia's explanation is, I was trying to get some information. So sorry. Here's a picture of me. It's like, this is such a shitty way to wrap up this like Felicia and Foreigner story. It's so bad. It's such a shitty cop out of like, no, I was joking again, right? I was just kidding, and it was never really actually with them. I was just doing it to get more information. Like, that's dumb. There's no actual like explanation or wrap up to that story. It's just like, yeah, you didn't get to see what I was doing behind the scenes, but guess what? I was doing some stuff behind the scenes, and I wasn't actually working for him. I was tricking him too. It's like, you can't just say that.
You're saying
You can't tell me what happened to wrap up this story. You need to show me what happened. You can't set up this weird like hit out on Spider-Man from JJ and then have Sable just be like, nah, I changed my mind. Like it, what? It just doesn't. You don't see why she changes her mind. Is it because she's with none of it makes sense. Why, if she's teamed up with Foreigner and Foreigner is also trying to get rid of Spider-Man, why wouldn't she be on board? Like her and Foreigner don't like Spider-Man to begin with and are trying to get rid of him and kill him. Why not take the money and do it anyway? Like it just, nothing actually makes sense.
She loves him.
Stop. It's just, again, I really like some of the stuff in it, but it just infuriates me that they just don't give a shit about how any of these stories are wrapping up. They just are like, you know what? We're done with this stuff. We're going to move on. So just however you want to do it. Yeah, Felicia was lying. Who cares? Betty, you're crazy.
I think he was planning it the whole time.
You think this was the plan the whole time?
Yeah, 100%. I think Peter Day was planning this the whole time. Whether you like it or not is a separate issue.
But it's not a plan. It's an idea. You know what I mean? Like having Felicia double cross Foreigner is an idea. It's not a story. You can't just say, I double crossed Foreigner to get some information, and then it's a good story and it works.
Properly is another issue, but I definitely think he was planning it the whole time. I don't think that 15 months ago he thought, oh, I'm going to make Black Cat evil. I think he thought the whole time, I'm just going to do this story, but in the end, I'm going to reveal that she was actually working.
Right, but again, that's not a story. It's just an idea, right? Like it's just something that you say like, "Oh yeah, we'll have Felicia with Foreigner and she'll double cross him and it's just a ploy to get information." Like that is an idea, but the story of how it happens and what information she's getting and why she's doing it this way is part of the story and what needs to be happening in the issues. We don't get that. We're just told the idea of...
It's just not told well. It's just not done well. But it is the story. Like, what's happened the past 15 issues is the story. It's just that he kind of cheated because he didn't give any hints. That's the problem.
I guess so.
He just
I don't
left it
know.
all out of the
It's like-
actual main plot of
Let's
all
put
of
it
these
this way.
books.
It's exactly like Fight Club. And this is why I've never liked Fight Club, because at the twist ending of Fight Club is that Tyler Durden and the other guy are the same person, but there's never a hint of that in the entire movie.
Excuse
Julie?
me. There is.
Is
Yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
And-
Yeah.
Mhm.
Especially when you watch it again.
Yeah.
Oh, because I thought it was terribly handled. But anyway, maybe we go back.
Also, you got to read the book.
You know
just-
what? We should
You
go
know
back
from the
and
moment.
reread these issues of Spider-Man. So can see
We
all-
want to thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It really helps me leave us a review.
I would love just an episode of Jolie mansplaining Fight Club to straight men. That makes me happy.
Oh.
Yep.
Anyway, where were we? Jank, did we talk to you yet? I don't remember.
At all, or like
Yeah, did you see? You did your review. Yes. Okay, let's put it this way.
Yeah, absolutely.
We were on recommendations, right? I think that's
Yeah.
where we were.
Yeah, I think that
After-
we're getting there.
after Josh said his, I changed my mind. I don't like this comic anymore. But I do still like that dick joke, but I don't like the rest of it.
There you go.
Yeah, again, that scene is very good. I really like the jokes in this. Whether the whole I got to think this thing through and then crashing through the window was like a planned joke or not is one thing, but like I thought that worked really well. This the stuff with Foreigner, this is the most I've liked the Foreigner as a character. Before this, he was just like some dude really that showed up because they needed another guy in a business suit. So this was like pretty fun to see him and see what he does and how he acts with Spider-Man and how they riff off each other. So like that stuff is really good and fun, but it just makes me so upset that this is how they're ending all of these subplots in Peter Parker's life.
I just, go ahead.
I just think it's cheap. I don't know. Just show us what happened instead of just telling us and ending the issue.
So I posted these pictures, a couple clips from this series, this issue to Back Issue Magazine, and someone posted, quote, "Dust bunnies back in a tick." Like, great line. See, I didn't even post that line. He remembers it from 40 years ago or 35 years ago. But anyway, so far I recommend it. Becca changed her mind. Josh does not recommend it.
No.
Jank, you recommend it, right?
Hell yeah, I'm still on board. It did. I mean, I don't agree that it was kind of rushed, but that's where I kind of thought this was Peter David getting like 2 issues to kind of close everything off, and he did the best he could. But I don't know if this was entirely the plan or if it was kind of rushed because he was on his way out the door.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, the behind the scenes, antics are probably more interesting than the comics themselves, but we'll never know the full story, right? But G.I. Julie, did you recommend it?
No, and I don't.
All right, Jolie does not recommend it. We have 2 recommends, 2 not recommends, and then 1 half and half from Becca, right?
Yeah, I'm being mysterious on purpose so that there's no winner.
There you go. All right, so guess what, guys? We're almost at the end of the, next week, we will be reviewing the end of everything. The end of the Rose, the end of the Hobgoblin, the end of Peter David. Everyone's fired or quit the book next week. So it's going to be an interesting one. But yeah,
Thank God.
we want to thank you for joining us for the almost end of this whole era. We hope you enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we celebrate
Yeah,
February.
missed all the good stuff.
Yeah.
I missed
Yeah.
Hobgoblin Lives, but I missed the marriage, Craven's Last Hunt. It's just sandwiched in the middle where it's just kind of, these are all right.
Well, for those that want to get more Kevin Jank, Jankuary is coming to Flea Market Fantasy, and it's lasting 4 weeks in a row, right? So be sure to check out. Our first review is going to be Booster Gold, #1. And then after that, it's a surprise. Even I don't know what we're talking about. So be sure to join us.
You would not be able to guess it.
All right. Is it a funny animal?
No.
Okay, because Mike Dell sprung alpha on me a few weeks ago, but it's not.
Yeah, that
Okay.
issue sounded amazing. I'm sad I missed that.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another one. Anyway, okay, so Josh, yeah, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcasts, or you can drop us a line on Twitter at HCT Spidercast. Please let us know what you guys think about the comics we're talking about and reading, and let us know what you guys think about the podcast itself. So, yeah, let's keep that comics conversation going.
And thank you again to Judge Jolie and Bex Luthor for joining us. And until next Monday, see you later.